Hey, Canada, important topic. Or should I say, I guess that's the part where it's truly subjective. Although, in the macro aspect, all the things I usually discuss are objective from the macro aspect. But for each individual, certain topics, discussions, right, aspects of our cohabitation, coexistence in a particular geographical landmass, if it doesn't affect you, you probably don't care as much, right? I get that. I understand that. That's what the human experience is all about, is we have to care about ourselves first and foremost. But having compassion and empathy for others that have to suffer under the whims or arbitrary authority of the state, that's important as well. Just like in the family unit. I come first, but my family... the only reason why I have to come first is because if I'm the provider of my family, without me, they would not have a provider, right? Kind of deal. So without the provider, you gotta make yourself a priority first. But your family, or those you care about, and then of course your extended family or your community or your, other people matter too. And we always have to remember that. We respect and promote the individual, but that also means every other human being. Every other human's an individual. I'm a human being and I'm an individual, but so is every other human being. So if I want to be treated in a certain way and have respect and dignity for me as an individual, I have to reciprocate that to every other individual as well, right? That's the universal consistency that I'm usually always talking about, that the philosophy of liberty touches on and discusses in depth. This is from the Hamilton Spectator. Hamilton dad loses fight to pull kids from school over false teachings. So this is a father that, he got with a woman, the mother, and they had a child. And when you have a child, just like I say, with whether it's plants that when your leaves fall or your seeds fall to the ground, there's no, or in the animal kingdom, there is no concept in any aspect of nature where politicians, pundits, or media personalities have any power or authority over the offspring of a species, right? It's only in the human realm, because this is the part, once humans realize that they can use the power of mysticism, of propaganda, misinformation, and confusion to propagate their message or their narrative on the people. Yeah, well, it's been around forever and ever and ever, right? And that's why a free press and freedom of information and free speech is so important. So you can always fight to counteract their narratives. They're bullshit. But a parent obviously should be the ultimate, not authority, but arbiter and decision maker over their children. Unless it actually has a genuine, not this fake bullshit where they come up with, you might, cause some minor hardships or whatever, or subjective opinions when it comes to that. But if a parent chooses to use violence against their child, that's a totally different story. But as far as what they choose to adhere to as far as ideology, that's not for me, you, or anyone else to decide. Even if you do have this compassion, right? It's a balancing act. It's a measured response if you're using the proper intellectual way. If you want to go back to and I've said this in past videos, if you want to go back to being Neanderthals and just using raw passion and emotion or fear, or all that bullshit, anger as a basis for your decisions, your edicts, or how you're going to deal with the situation, well then okay, let's go back to it. But once again, you're even going to lose in that situation, because that's the alphas that will rise to the top once again. So no matter how you look at it, if you want things to be proper and universal, then use philosophical principles and endeavors as the basis for your information and moral consistency. In this situation, no, the government should not have higher authority over your children than you do. That should go without even statement. I shouldn't have to state that. That should be so obvious that nobody would even deny it. And it was when I was growing up, my younger years. I don't remember hearing anyone that would have suggested that the government is the ultimate authority over people's children, right? But we keep getting closer and closer to that precipice because the collectivists are fighting tooth and nail and using the power of the state, right, to implement that kind of mentality, to force that mentality onto the people, whether it's through the education system, political propaganda, I mean, there's many different ways that they do it, but we have to start standing up and speaking out against it. Steve Astrosios or whatever, Tukikis, wanted to be alerted by Hamilton's public school board anytime a long list of topics he considered an attack on his Greek Orthodox religion came up in lessons. In turning down the request, Justice Robert Reed also refused to declare parents have the final authority over the education of their children in a ruling last Wednesday in the Ontario Superior Court of Justice in Hamilton. The ruling puts inclusion and equality before individual religious accommodations in public education and in a diverse society. That's very dangerous. Fucking dangerous precedent, people. You can't even imagine. Even if you agree in this particular incident. This is the problem that I have with people is you can choose to agree with a particular instance because you might have a preference in that aligns with that ruling. But that ruling will play out in every other aspect of all the people's life in this particular geographical landmass. Stop using the power of politics to control and dominate people and force your opinions, edicts, or ideologies onto others. The ruling puts inclusion... Reed said allowing Terlukis to isolate his children from aspects of the curriculum would be conflicting with competing legislative mandate and charter values favoring inclusivity, equality, and multiculturalism. So these new, like I said, they're writing these fucking laws to try to dictate how people must think and conform. And now they're using that as a basis for their decision, these judges. Like I said, you got to stop the bullshit soon, people, because the religious statism is rampantly on display and a devastation to so many people. Some Christian groups call the decision a blow to parental rights, while advocates of the province's anti-bullying legislation see it as a victory. So once again, put people on two sides of a spectrum, on the opposing sides of a spectrum politically, and once again, winners over losers. In a natural course of things, both sides should be able to be winners. No one should be able to force their ideas, opinions, or edicts on the other, but because of the realm of politics, that's what happens. So, like I said, nobody's going to be happy. Well, I mean, the fuckers that win over the losers, they might be happy, but even then, in the long-term strategy, they're going to see that that's going to play out against them in so many other aspects. And so it's always this battle, this race to the bottom, which is what this just... It's so devastating and so detrimental to human evolution and the mental evolution of the human, right? Of the human intellect. Oh, this race to the bottom. It's fuck, I'll be glad when we finally reach there, or at least start heading back the other way. But as this continues on, like I'm having a harder time all the time to hold my fucking breath. I'm drowning in this shit, people. Don't worry. Yeah, I fucking get scuba gear. So don't worry, I'll be around. I'll still keep on doing my thing. But Jesus, can we stop this fucking foolishness? And I'm not choosing a side. As you know, it's not about choosing religion. It's always about the individual. And the individual and the family is what matters most, right? Not some arbitrary authority called the state. Not some fucking asshole politician that gets to go home every night and doesn't have to live your fucking life. Why should they have power to control and dominate you? Or power even over your kids so you don't even have the confidence or ability to tell your kids, I should matter most to you. But no, they matter most to you, right? Because the kids recognize and realize, no, Dad, actually, you don't really have the kind of authority over me that you think. No, the political people have way more power than you could ever hope to. And this is the fucking detrimental. This is just one aspect of the destruction of the family and why societies have been on that race to the bottom ever since. Once you start destroying the family unit, right? We know this happens. It's been talked about countless times before, But this is the bullshit we're dealing with today. And I feel sorry for this gentleman. Even if at the end I might not necessarily, whether I do or don't agree with his stance, ultimately, the fact that the state or the school or some arbitrary authority get to override his decision regarding his children, yeah, that disturbs me tremendously. And it should you too. This is the Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.